Good evening, football fans. Big Al here on this Tuesday, October 21st, 2025, and welcome to the Week 7 edition of The Week That Was, where we'll look at all the team and player statistical numbers from all 15 games across Week 7 in the National Football League. And then stay tuned at the end for my Week 8 power rankings. There was some more shuffling and we don't have a new number one. That's probably the only spoiler here that you'll get. So, stick around for my Week 8 power rankings after the recap. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell to get notified every time I go live. And here we go with the Week 7 edition of the Week That Was. Beginning with Thursday Night Football. And it was a fun one on Thursday night as the Cincinnati Bengals defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 33-31 to improve their record to 3-4. The AFC North Division leading Steelers dropped to 4-2 with the loss. All right, let's start with individual numbers. First up for the Bengals, Joe Flacco, who was signed early last week from the Browns, was 31 of 47 for 342 yards with 3 touchdowns and no interceptions and a 108.6 QB rating. Leading rusher was Chase Brown, 11 carries, 108 yards, averaging 9.8 per rush. And your leading receivers, you have Jamar Chase, 16 catches, 161 yards, and a touchdown on 23 targets. That's not a misprint. He averaged 10.1 yards per catch. T. Higgins, 6 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown on 10 targets. He averaged 16 per catch. Andre Yosivas, 3 catches, 49 yards on 4 targets, averaging 16.3. And Noah Fant, 4 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets. Evan McPherson was perfect on special teams, 4 for 4 on field goals. His long was 49, and 3 for 3 on extra points. Ryan Rackhow, 3 punts, averaging 45, long punt of 60, with 1 inside the 20-yard line. All right, leading tacklers for the Bengals include Barrett Carter with 12 tackles, Geno Stone with 5 tackles and a pass defense, and Jordan Battle with 5 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Oren Burks had 5 tackles in this game as well. While Demetrius Knight Jr. had 4 tackles. And Logan Wilson also with 4 tackles plus a pass defense. For the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers was 23 of 34 for 249 yards with 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He had a 103.7 QB rating. Leading rusher for Pittsburgh was Jaylen Warren, 16 carries for 127, averaging 7.9 per run. Leading receivers include Pat Freiermuth, 5 catches, 111 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 6 targets, averaging 22.2 yards per catch. DK Metcalf, 3 catches, 50 yards on 5 targets, averaging 16.7. Jaylen Warren adds 4 catches, 31 yards on 5 targets, and a 7.8 average. Jonnu Smith, 3 catches, 28 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets. He averaged 9.3 per game, or 9.3 per catch. And Darnell Washington had just 3 catches for 2 yards. He did catch a touchdown on his 5 targets. He averaged less than a yard a catch. Chris Boswell, 1 for 1 on field goals. His long was 41 and 4 for 4 on extra points. Corliss Waitman with 2 punts averaging 42, long punt of 45, and both of his punts were inside the 20-yard line. Anna's in the house. What's up, Anna? All right, leading tacklers for the Steelers include Deshaun Elliott with 9 total tackles, Joey Porter Jr., 5 solo tackles and 2 passes defensed. Cole Holcomb, 7 tackles. Jalen Ramsey with 6 tackles and a pass defensed. Peyton Wilson also with 6 tackles for the Steelers. Total yards, 470 for the Bengals and 396 for the Steelers. Passing yards favored the Cincinnati Bengals, 328 to 249. Rush yards favored the Pittsburgh Steelers, 147 to 142, but both teams ran the ball well. The Bengals had 27 first downs versus 19 for the Steelers. Pittsburgh was 7 of 10 on third down with no fourth downs. Cincinnati was 7 of 14 on third down and 1 of 1 on fourth down. 7 penalties, 59 yards for the Steelers with no sacks taken, no lost fumbles, and 2 interceptions thrown. 4 penalties, 35 yards for the Bengals, 2 sacks taken for 14, no lost fumbles, and no interceptions thrown. Time of possession is 34 minutes, 32 seconds for the Bengals, so they were a stone's throw away from ball hawk territory. The Steelers held the ball for 25 minutes and 28 seconds. Closing line was Pittsburgh minus 5.5, and the over-under was 45. I did take the Steelers to win straight up, but I took the Bengals with the points. So my straight up record to start the week is 0-1. And my ATS record is 1-0 with Cincinnati covering. And in the over-under department, I took this game under 44.5. There were 64 points scored, so that's going to count as a loss. So on totals, I'm 0-1. Okay, moving on to Sunday, we have another London game. In fact, this is the last of the London games for 2025. It sees the Los Angeles Rams beat up the Jacksonville Jaguars 35-7. As the Rams move to 5-2 on the season and the Jaguars drop to 4-3. Start with individual numbers. First up for the Rams, and history was made for Matthew Stafford. He went 21 of 33 for 182 yards with 5 touchdowns and no interceptions at a 117.7 rating. Stafford becomes the first quarterback in the history of the NFL International Series to toss 5 touchdown passes in a game. So congratulations to you, Matthew Stafford. Kyron Williams led the Rams in rushing, 12 carries, 54 yards, averaging 4.5 per run. And Blake Corum had 12 carries, 37 yards, and a 3.1 average. Leading receivers for the Rams include Colby Parkinson, 3 catches, 47 yards on 3 targets, averaging 15.7. Devontae Adams, 5 catches, 35 yards, 3 touchdowns on 8 targets. He averaged 7 per catch. Terrence Ferguson, 1 catch, 31 yards for a touchdown on 3 targets. Tyler Higbee, 3 catches, 19 yards on 6 targets. He averaged 6.3 per catch. Joshua Carty, no field goals, but 5 for 5 on extra points. Ethan Evans with 5 punts, averaging 48.4. Long punt of 57 with 2 punts inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Rams include Cam Curl with 10 tackles and a pass defense. Nate Landman, 9 tackles and 1.5 sacks. Quentin Lake, 6 tackles, a sack, a pass defense, or rather 2 passes defense. He also had a forced fumble in this game. Cameron Kitchens, 5 tackles, and Emmanuel Forbes Jr., 4 solo tackles for the Rams. For the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence was not good in this game. 23 of 48, 296 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He had a 74.7 QB rating. Leading rusher was Travis Etienne Jr., 8 carries, 44 yards, averaging 5.5 per run. Leading receivers for Jacksonville include Travis Hunter, 8 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown, his first in the NFL, on 14 targets and a 12.6 average. Parker Washington, 4 catches, 52 yards on 10 targets, averaging 13. De'Ami Brown, 2 catches, 50 yards on 4 targets. He averaged 25 per catch. And Brian Thomas Jr., 3 catches, 33 yards, 7 targets, and a 10.3 average. He was pretty much a non-factor. Cam Little, 0 for 1 on field goals, 1 for 1 on extra points. Logan Cook, 5 punts, averaging 41.4, long punt of 62, with 2 punts inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Jaguars include Ventrell Miller with 8 tackles. Jordan Lewis with 6 tackles and a pass defense. Andrew Wingard, 5 tackles and a pass defense. Eric Murray also with 5 tackles. And Devon Hamilton with 4 solo tackles. Total yards, 358 for the Jaguars, 271 for the Rams. Passing yards favored Jacksonville, 264 to 182. Rush yards also favored Jacksonville, 94 to 89. The Rams, however, had more first downs, 26 versus 21 for the Jaguars. LA was 2 of 10 on 3rd down, 2 for 2 on 4th down. Jacksonville, 3 of 15 on 3rd down, 2 for 6 on 4th down. 5 penalties, 45 yards for the Rams, no sacks taken, no lost fumbles, and no interceptions thrown. 13 penalties for 119 for the Jaguars. They took 7 sacks for 32 yards, no lost fumbles, and no interceptions thrown as well. Time of possession favored the Rams, 31 minutes, 46 seconds to 28 minutes and 14 seconds for the Jaguars. Closing line was LA -3, over under was 44. I took the Rams to win and cover, and I took the under 44.5 in this game. And I won all 3 of these picks, going 1-1 straight up, 2-0 ATS, and 1-1 on totals. All right, now to the Sunday afternoon portion of the schedule. We'll start off with a rather boring game as the Carolina Panthers keep on winning. They beat the winless New York Jets 13-6. Carolina, as a result, will improve its record to 4-3. New York, still the lone winless team left in the NFL. They are now 0-7. We'll begin with individual numbers first for the Panthers. Bryce Young started the game. He went 15 of 25 for 138 yards with a touchdown and no interceptions and an 88.4 QB rating. But he would leave this game with a high ankle sprain. He had an MRI, I think, on Monday, and it determined that he has a high ankle sprain. So the veteran Andy Dalton would come in for the rest of the game. He went 4 for 7 for 60 yards and an 85.4 QB rating. Rico Dowdle was the leading rusher for Carolina once again. 17 carries, 79 yards, and a 4.6 average. Chuba Hubbard had 14 carries for 31 yards and only averaged 2.2 per tote. Leading receivers for the Panthers include Xavier Legette, 9 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown on 11 targets. He averaged 10.2. Tataroa McMillan, 3 catches, 33 yards on 5 targets with an 11 average. Mitchell Evans, 2 catches, 24 yards on 3 targets, and a 12 average. Exact same receiving numbers for Chuba Hubbard. 2 catches, 24 yards on 3 targets, and a 12 average. Rico Dowdle did add a catch for 17 on a couple of targets. Ryan Fitzgerald, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 30, and 1 for 1 on extra points. Sam Martin, 6 punts, averaging 46, long punt of 68. 4 of his 6 punts were inside the 20-yard line. All right, as for leading tacklers for the Carolina Panthers, Derek Brown had 7 tackles and 2 sacks, plus 3 passes defensed. Nick Scott and Christian Roseboom each had 7 tackles. Trevon Moehrig had 6 tackles and a sack. Ashawn Robinson had 4 tackles and a sack. And Mike Jackson finished the day with 4 tackles and 3 passes defensed. For the Jets, Justin Fields would start the game. He was 6 of 12 for 46 yards, 6 of 12 for 46 yards with no touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 59.7 passer rating. He would be benched in favor of Tyrod Taylor, who went 10 of 22 for 126 with no touchdowns and 2 interceptions and a 25.9 QB rating. Leading rusher for the Jets was Breece Hall, 11 carries, 38 yards, and a 3.5 average. Top receivers for the Jets include Tyler Johnson, 3 catches, 60 yards on 3 targets. He averaged 20 a catch. Mason Taylor was 3 for 31 on 5 targets and a 10.3 average. And Josh Reynolds had 3 catches, 29 yards on 9 targets, averaging 9.7. Nick Folk, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 47 with no extra points. Austin McNamara with 5 punts, averaging 48.6, long punt of 56, with 2 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for New York include Jamian Sherwood, 10 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. Andre Sisco, 6 tackles. Brandon Stevens with 5 solo tackles and 2 passes defense. Jarvis Brownlee Jr., 6 tackles. Malachi Moore with 4 solo tackles and a pass defense. And Quinnen Williams with 8 tackles. Total yards, 302 for the Panthers, 220 for the Jets. Passing yards favored Carolina, 177 to 139. Rush yards also favored Carolina, 125 to 81. The Panthers had 17 first downs. The Jets had 12. Carolina was 5 of 17 on 3rd down, 3 of 4 on 4th down. And New York was 7 of 15 on 3rd down, 0 for 1 on 4th down. 6 penalties, 45 yards for the Panthers, 2 sacks taken for 21. No lost fumbles, and no interceptions thrown. 5 penalties, 33 yards for the Jets, 6 sacks taken for 33, no lost fumbles, and 2 interceptions thrown. Alright, the Panthers are in ball hawk territory. They possessed the ball for 35 minutes and 5 seconds, and for the Jets, 24 minutes and 55 seconds. If you're new here, a ball hawk is a team that possesses the ball during the game for at least 35 minutes, whether the team wins or loses. Oh, I did that wrong. Sorry about that. Closing line was Carolina -1. Over-under was 40. I picked the Panthers to win and to cover, and I took the under in this game at 42. The two teams only had 19 points, so they were nowhere near that total. My straight-up record goes to 2-1. My ATS record, a perfect 3-0. And on totals, I am now 2-1. Alright, our next game was a snoozer, as the Kansas City Chiefs pitched a shutout against the Las Vegas Raiders 31-0. Remember that 0-2 start for the Chiefs? Well, that's ancient history. They are now 4-3 on the season, and the Raiders dropped to 2-5. And wait till you hear the offensive numbers for the Raiders. They are ugly. We'll look at those numbers shortly, but first the individual numbers for the Chiefs. Starting with Patrick Mahomes, 26 of 35, 286 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 126.6 QB rating. Leading rusher was Isaiah Pacheco, 15 carries, 57 yards, and a touchdown, 3.8 average. Rashad Smith, 14 carries, 39 yards, and a 2.8 average. By the way, Patrick Mahomes added 28 rushing yards in this game. Leading receivers for Kansas City include Travis Kelce, 3 catches, 54 yards on 3 targets, and an 18 average. Rashee Rice playing in his first game since his 6-game suspension to start the season, and he had quite the debut. 7 catches, 42 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 10 targets. He averaged 6 per catch. And Rashad Smith added 5 grabs for 42 yards on 5 targets and an 8.4 average. Harrison Butker 1 for 1 on field goals, long of 38, 4 for 4 on extra points. Matt Araiza 3 punts, averaging 35.3, long punt of 40 with 2 inside the 20-yard line. Alright, leading tacklers for the Chiefs. I'm only going to mention a couple names here. Trent McDuffie has 6 tackles. Chris Roland Wallace had 4 tackles. And I'll add one more, and that's Chris Jones. He had 2 tackles and a sack. And now to those ugly offensive numbers for the Las Vegas Raiders. Geno Smith was 10 of 16 for 67 yards with no touchdowns or interceptions. He had a 71.6 QB rating. Kenny Pickett came in garbage time, went 2 for 2 for 8 yards and an 83.3 QB rating. Ashton Jeanty was their leading rusher, although his numbers are very low like the rest of the team. 6 carries, 21 yards, and a 3.5 average. The leading receiver for Vegas was Trey Tucker. He had 5 catches, 33 yards on 6 targets. He averaged 6.6 per catch. Ashton Jeanty added a reception for 13. And that's pretty much it. There were no field goals or extra points by the Raiders, but A.J. Cole had 6 punts, averaging 47.2, long punt of 63, with 3 inside the 20-yard line. Alright, leading tacklers for the Raiders include Landon Roberts with 18 tackles. That's 7 solo and 11 assisted tackles. Devin White, not too far behind him. He had 16 tackles. Jeremy Chin had 10 tackles and a forced fumble. Isaiah Polamau also with 10 tackles. And then you had 6 tackles apiece for Malcolm Kuntz and Thomas Booker IV. Alright. Total yards, 434 for the Chiefs, 95 for the Raiders. Again, that is not a misprint. The Raiders actually had just 95 yards of offense. Passing yards, 282 for the Chiefs, 70 for the Raiders. And rushing was 152 for the Chiefs and 25 for the Raiders. Kansas City had 30 first downs, Las Vegas 3. That's not a misprint either. Neither is this. The Raiders were 0 for 7 on 3rd down and 0 for 1 on 4th down. Kansas City finished 9 of 15 on third down and 1 for 2 on fourth down. 8 penalties, 58 yards for the Raiders, 1 sack taken for 5, 1 lost fumble, and no interceptions thrown. 5 penalties, 38 yards for the Chiefs, 1 sack taken for 4, with no lost fumbles and no interceptions thrown. Time of possession was not even close. It was nearly 3-1 for the Chiefs at 42 minutes, 8 seconds versus 17 minutes, 52 seconds for the Raiders. So Kansas City clearly in ball hawk territory. Closing line was Kansas City minus 13, over under 44.5. I took the Chiefs to win and to cover. And I actually projected this game to go over 45 points. So I got the straight up and ATS picks, but lost the totals pick. Alright, so this was my lock of the week as I go to 3-1 on the season, or 3-1 on the week straight up, 4-0 against the spread. And my record for totals is 2-2. So yeah, very, very ugly game for Pete Carroll and the Las Vegas Raiders. Next up, we got the Cleveland Browns, who laid the smackdown on the Miami Dolphins by a final of 31-6. The Dolphins win improves their record to 2, or the Browns win, I should say, improves their record to 2-5. Miami, with the loss, drops to 1-6. We'll begin with individual numbers. First up for the Browns, Dylan Gabriel didn't have to do all that much in this game. 13 of 18, 116 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He had an 89.1 QB rating. Star of this game is the rookie Quinshon Judkins. 25 carries, 84 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He averaged 3.4 per run. Dylan Gabriel added another 12 rushing yards for Cleveland. Leading receivers include Harold Fannin Jr., 4 catches, 36 yards on 5 targets, and a 9 average. Jamari Thrash, 1 catch, 23 yards on 2 targets. Okay, Malachi Corley and Jerry Jeudy each had 2 receptions for 17 yards and an 8.5 average. Corley had 2 targets in the game. Jeudy had 4. Andrew Smythe 1 for 1 on field goals, long of 30, 4 for 4 on extra points. Corey Bojorquez, 6 punts averaging 43, long punt of 60, 2 touchbacks, and 3 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Browns include the rookie Carson Schlesinger with 7 tackles, 6 tackles from Devin Bush, 5 tackles from Alex Wright, 4 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble by Grant Delpit. Miles Harden with 4 tackles and a pass defense. And then further down the list, you got Myles Garrett with 2 solo tackles and a sack. For the Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, 12 of 23 for 100 yards with no touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He was putrid in this game. He had a QB rating of 24.1. He did get benched in this game, but according to head coach Mike McDaniel, Tua will remain the starting quarterback for the Dolphins. So he would be benched. Entered Quinn Ewers, rookie quarterback out of Texas, making his NFL debut. 5 of 8 for 53 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions, and an 81.8 QB rating. Leading rusher for the Dolphins is Devin Achane, 13 carries, 82 yards, 6.3 average. Top receivers for Miami include D. Eskridge, 2 catches, 46 yards on 2 targets. or rather 2 catches, 45 yards on 2 targets, and a 22.5 average. Malik Washington with 5 catches, 30 yards on 8 targets, and a 6 average. Devonation and Nick Westbrook-Akine each had 3 receptions for 16 yards, averaging 5.3 apiece. Westbrook-Akine had 4 targets in the game. Achane had 5. Jalen Waddle was a non-factor, just 1 catch for 15 yards on 4 targets. Riley Patterson, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 33, with no extra points. Jake Bailey, 4 punts averaging 47.3, long punt of 50, with 1 inside the 20. Alright, leading tacklers for the Dolphins include Jordan Brooks with 9 tackles, Tyrell Dotson with 8 tackles and a sack, Ashton Davis 7 tackles, and 5 tackles apiece from Kenneth Grant and Bradley Chubb. Total yards 219 for the Dolphins, 206 for the Browns. Passing yards favored Miami 120 to 102. Rush yards favored Cleveland 104 to 99. 15 first downs for the Browns, 12 for the Dolphins. Miami was 1 of 13 on third downs, which is horrible, and 2 of 4 on fourth down. Cleveland 4 of 11 on third down, 0 for 0 on fourth downs. 11 penalties, 103 yards for the Dolphins, 4 sacks taken for 33, 1 lost fumble, and 3 interceptions thrown. So they had a lot of turnovers in this game. 5 penalties, 37 yards for the Browns, 2 sacks taken for 14, with no lost fumbles or interceptions thrown. Time of possession, 31 minutes, 45 seconds for the Browns, 28 minutes, 15 seconds for the Dolphins. Closing line was Cleveland minus 2.5, over under 34.5. I picked the Browns straight up and against the spread, and I projected this game would go under 39.5 points. They barely missed the total as the 2 teams scored 37. My straight up record goes to 4-1. ATS record is still perfect at 5-0. And my record on over-unders is 3-2 for the week. Alright, next up, the New England Patriots continue with their winning ways as they beat the Tennessee Titans in Nashville 31-13. The Patriots are now at 5-2 and sitting alone atop the AFC East, while the Titans, the hits just keep on coming for them. They're down to 1-6. Alright, individual numbers for the Patriots. Drake May, very efficient game. 21-23, 222 yards with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. He had a 135.9 QB rating. Josh Dobbs, a.k.a. the Pastronaut, also came in, completed a pass for 12 yards at a 116.7 QB rating. Leading rusher was Ramondre Stevenson, 18 carries, 88 yards, and a touchdown, and a 4.9 average. Drake May, pretty good day running the ball, 8 carries, 62 yards, and a 7.8 average. Leading receivers include Stephon Diggs, 7 catches, 69 yards on 7 targets, 9.9 per catch. Keyshawn Boutte, 2 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown on 2 targets, 27.5 per grab. Matt Collins, 2 for 49 on 2 targets, and a 24.5 average. Hunter Henry, 4 catches, 33 yards on 5 targets. He had an 8.3 average. Demario Douglas, 3 catches, 17 yards on 3 targets, and a 5.7 average. And Austin Hooper, 2 catches, 11 yards, and a touchdown on 2 targets. He averaged 5.5. Andy Borgales, 1 for 1 on field goals, long of 36, 4 for 4 on extra points. Bryce Behringer, 4 punts, averaging 37.5, long punt of 51, with one inside the 20-yard line. All right, your leading tacklers for the Patriots include Marte Mapu, 8 tackles and a pass defense. Christian Gonzalez, a.k.a. Gonzo, had 5 solo tackles. Milton Williams, a player I know oh so well with his time with the Eagles last year, 5 tackles and a sack. Jelani Tavai and Carlton Davis each had 4 tackles. Harold Landry had 3 tackles and a sack. And Clavon Chasson, 3 tackles and 2 sacks. On the Titans side of the ledger, Cam Ward was 25 of 34 for 255 with a touchdown and an interception. He had a 92.2 QB rating. Leading rusher was Tajay Spears, 5 carries, 22 yards, and a 4.4 average. Tony Pollard limited to 18 yards on 6 rushes and a 3 average. Leading receivers for the Titans include Shamir Dyke. He's a rookie receiver and kick returner from Florida. He had 4 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets. Tony Pollard, not effective in the running game, but was in the passing game. 6 catches, 43 yards on 6 targets. He averaged 7.2. Van Jefferson, 4 for 41 on 4 targets, 10.3 average. And Gunnar Helm, another former Texas Longhorn. He had 4 catches, 36 yards on 5 targets. He averaged 9 per catch. Joey Sly, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 50, and 1 for 1 on extra points. Johnny Hecker, 3 punts, averaging 40.7, long punt of 53, 2 inside the 20-yard line. All right, leading tacklers for the Titans include Cedric Gray with 10 tackles, Quandre Diggs with 7 tackles, 6 tackles each for Roger McCrary and Amani Hooker. And then you had 4 tackles for Sebastian Joseph Day. Jihad Ward, 4 tackles and a sack. And Tavondre Sweat with 6 tackles and a sack for the Titans. Total yards, Patriots 387, Titans 255. Slight advantage in passing yards to Tennessee, 216 to 212. Rush yards favored New England, 175 to 39. The Patriots had 22 first downs, the Titans with 16. The Patriots finished 5 of 12 on 3rd down, 2 for 2 on 4th down. And the Titans were 3 for 10 on 3rd down and 0 for 2 on 4th down. 5 penalties, 36 yards for the Patriots, 4 sacks taken for 22, no lost fumbles, and no interceptions thrown. 3 penalties, 15 yards for the Titans. 5 sacks taken for 39, with 1 lost fumble and 1 interception thrown. All right, the Patriots are in ball hawk country, possessing the ball for 37 minutes and 12 seconds versus 22 minutes, 48 seconds for the Titans. Closing line was New England minus 6.5. Over-under was 40.5. I took the Titans to win and cover, and I picked this game to go over 42 points. The 2 teams scored 44. So I won all 3 picks in this game. Straight up record is now 5-1. Spread record is 6-0. And my totals record on over-unders is 4-2. Moving on. You got the Chicago Bears defeating the New Orleans Saints 26-14. The Bears have now won 4 straight. They are now 4-2 on the season, while the Saints dropped to 1-6. Individual numbers starting off with the Bears. Caleb Williams, 15 of 26, 172 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 61.7 QB rating. Right now, I got the 49ers and the Bills in the Super Bowl. Thanks for the question there, Fabian. Devondre Swift, what a game. 19 carries, 124 yards, and a touchdown, 6.5 average. And then you have Kyle Monangai, rookie running back out of Rutgers. He had 13 carries, 81 yards, and a touchdown. He averaged 6.2 per run. Leading receivers for Chicago include DJ Moore, 3 catches, 43 yards on 5 targets, and a 14.3 average. Rome Odunze, 2 catches, 31 yards on 6 targets, 15.5 average. Colston Loveland, 3 catches, 24 yards on 4 targets, and an 8 average for the former Michigan Wolverine. Jake Moody, 4 for 4 on field goals, long of 39, 2 for 2 on extra points. Torrey Taylor, 3 punts, averaging 43, long punt of 47, 2 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Bears include Tremaine Edmonds with 9 tackles, a sack, a pass defense, and an interception. TJ Edwards had 7 tackles and 2 passes defensed. Jaquan Brisker, 6 tackles and a sack. Kyler Gordon, 4 solo tackles and a sack. Montez Sweat, 4 solo tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. Tyreek Stevenson with 3 tackles and a pass defense. Nashawn Wright with 2 tackles, both solo, with 2 passes defense and an interception. And Kevin Byard, 2 tackles, 2 passes defense, and an interception. For the Saints, Spencer Rattler is 20 of 32 for 233 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. He had a QB rating of 66.3. Hey, Bryce, what's up? Leading rusher, if you can call him that, is Alvin Kamara. Only 11 carries, 28 yards, and a 2.5 average. Leading receivers for the Saints include Chris Olave, 5 catches, 98 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 7 targets, 19.6 average. Jawan Johnson, 5 catches, 79 yards on 7 targets, 15.8 average. And Rashid Shaheed, 4 catches, 40 yards on 9 targets, and a 10 average. Blake Grupe, 0 for 1 on field goals, 2 for 2 on extra points. Kai Kroger, 3 punts, averaging 42.3, long punt of 49. On the Saints defense, your leading tacklers are Demario Davis with 10, Justin Reed with 6 plus a pass defense, Alante Taylor with 7, Kool-Aid McKinstry with 5 solo tackles and a pass defense, and Jonas Sinker with 5 tackles. Total yards, 386 for the Bears, 253 for the Saints. Passing yards, favorite New Orleans, 209 to 164. Meanwhile, rush yards, favorite Chicago, huge in this one, 222 to 44. The Bears had 23 first downs versus 16 for the Saints. New Orleans was 3 of 10 on 3rd down, 0 for 2 on 4th down, while Chicago was 3 of 12 on 3rd down and 1 for 1 on 4th down. 5 penalties, 30 yards for the Saints. 4 sacks taken for 24 yards. 1 lost fumble and 3 interceptions thrown. 10 penalties, 92 yards for the Bears. 1 sack taken for 8. No lost fumbles and 1 interception thrown. Time of possession is 36 minutes, 19 seconds for the Bears, putting them in ball hawk country. Saints 23 minutes and 41 seconds. Closing line was Chicago minus 3.5. Over under was 43.5. I picked the Bears to win and cover, and I went under 47.5 on the total as the two teams scored just 40 points. So my straight up record goes to 6-1. ATS record remains perfect at 7-0. And on over under totals, I am now 5-2. The last of the early games from Sunday involved my Philadelphia Eagles as we snapped a 2-game losing streak by beating the Vikings in Minneapolis 28-22. We moved to 5-2 on the season while the Vikings fall back to 3-3. We'll start with individual numbers first for the Philadelphia Eagles. And how about the day for Jalen Hurts? Oh, my day is good there, Bryce. Hurts was 19 of 23 for 326 with 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he had a perfect QB rating of 158.3. He becomes the third Philadelphia quarterback, joining Nick Foles and Donovan McNabb to post a perfect passer rating. The rushing struggles continue for Saquon Barkley, just 18 carries, 44 yards, and a 2.4 average. But our top 2 receivers finally broke out. Devontae Smith led the way with 9 catches, 183 yards, and a touchdown on 11 targets, and a 20.3 average. Not to be outdone, A.J. Brown had 4 catches for 121 and 2 touchdowns on 6 targets. He averaged 30.3. Other receiver of note is Dallas Goedert, 3 catches, 18 yards, 3 targets, and a 6 average. Jake Elliott, 0 for 1 on field goals, but 4 for 4 on extra points. Braden Mann, 3 punts, averaging 48.7. Long punt of 53 with a touchback and a punt inside the 20-yard line. All right, top tacklers for the Eagles include Zach Bond with 10 tackles. Cooper DeJean with 8 tackles and a pass defense. Keely Ringo, 5 tackles. Quinyon Mitchell, 4 solo tackles. And Nakobe Dean with 6 tackles. On the Vikings side, former Eagle Carson Wentz went 26 of 42 for 313 with no touchdowns and 2 interceptions and a QB rating of 64.9. Leading rusher was Jordan Mason, 15 carries, 57 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 3.8 per run. On the receiving side, Jordan Addison, 9 catches, 128 on 12 targets, 14.2 average. Justin Jefferson, 5 catches, 79 yards on 10 targets, and a 15.8 average. And TJ Hawkinson, 6 catches, 43 yards on 9 targets. He averaged 7.2 per catch. Will Reichert, 5 for 5 on field goals, long of 59, 1 for 1 on extra points. Ryan Wright with just 1 punt for 34 yards, and it went inside the 20-yard line. All right, as for leading tacklers for Minnesota, you have Josh Metellus with 8 tackles and half a sack. Harrison Smith, 4 solo tackles and a pass defense. Jonathan Allen, 4 tackles and a half a sack. Byron Murphy Jr., 4 tackles. Theo Jackson with 5 tackles. Eric Wilson, 7 tackles, or rather 6 tackles and 1.5 sacks. Total yards, 387 for the Vikings, 361 for the Eagles. Now, quickly, I did a little research on NFL teams who were outgained in their first 7 games of the season. There have now been 54 total teams who have been outgained in every game in the first 7 weeks of the season, and the Eagles are just the third with a winning record to do so. I think they joined the 2010. I have to look at that article again, but there were 3 other teams that had winning records were being outgained in their first 7 games. In fact, in NFL history, as I said, there were 54 teams that were outgained by their opponent in their first 7 games of the season. Only one of those teams made the playoffs, and that's the 2003 Steelers. So, the prospects of the Eagles making the playoffs are not looking good, even with a 5-2 record. So again, total yards for 387 for the Vikings, 361 for the Eagles. Passing yards favored Philadelphia, 316 to 298. Rush yards favored Minnesota at nearly 2-1 at 89 to 45. 21 first downs for the Vikings, 13 for the Eagles. Philly was 3 of 10 on third down, 2 for 3 on fourth down, while Minnesota was 7 of 15 on third down and 1 for 1 on fourth down. 8 penalties, 64 yards for the Eagles, 3 sacks taken for 10, with no lost fumbles or interceptions thrown. 3 penalties, 30 yards for the Vikings, 2 sacks taken for 15 with no lost fumbles and 2 interceptions thrown. Time of possession, 34 minutes, 2 seconds for Minnesota, 25 minutes, 58 seconds for Philadelphia. Closing line was Philly minus 2.5. Over-under was 44.5. I picked the Eagles to win and cover, and I took the under in this game, unfortunately. Under 43.5. They scored 50. So my straight-up record is 7-1 through the 1 o'clock games. My ATS record is unblemished at 8-0. My totals record, however, drops to 5-3. If you're joining me late, you're watching the week that was. As we're taking a look at the team and player let me rephrase that again. If you're joining me late, you're watching the week that was, as we're looking at the team and player statistical numbers from week 7 in the NFL. And stay tuned, because after these next 7 games, we will go into my week 8 power rankings. And again, there's only one spoiler. There is a team at number 1 that did not move this week. So that's pretty much all you're getting at this point. You'll have to stay tuned for the power rankings to find out. Okay, we're on to the late games on Sunday. We'll start off with the Indianapolis Colts, who continue to impress as they beat the Los Angeles Chargers 38-24. Indianapolis improves to an NFL best 6-1 record, while the Chargers drop to 4-3. We'll start with individual numbers for the visiting Colts. Daniel Jones, playing like an MVP in my opinion, 23 of 34, 288 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 113.4 QB rating. Leading rusher was Jonathan Taylor. 16 carries, 94 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He averaged 5.9 per catch, or 5.9 per run. He added 3 receptions for 38 yards on 3 targets and a 12.7 reception average. So that is going to be 132 all-purpose yards on 19 touches for Jonathan Taylor. Other receivers for Indy include Alec Pierce, 5 catches, 98 yards, 10 targets, and a 19.6 QB. Should I play Josh Allen or Daniel Jones in fantasy? Right now, I'd go with the hot hand and I'd go Daniel Jones right now over Josh Allen. Ty Warren, 4 catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets, 17.3 average. Michael Pittman Jr., 7 catches, 58 yards, and a touchdown on 9 targets, and an 8.3 average. I don't know why I did that, but okay. Michael Badgley, 1 for 1 on field goals, long of 36, 3 for 4 on extra points. Rigoberto Sanchez, 2 punts averaging 43.5, long punt of 44, with no touchbacks and 1 inside the 20-yard line. All right. Leading tacklers for the Colts include Cam Bynum. I hit the wrong name here. He had 8 tackles. All right. Kenny Moore II, also with 8 tackles plus a pass defense. Nick Cross, 6 solo tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Mekhi Blackman, 6 tackles and a pass defense. And DeForest Buckner with 5 tackles and 2 sacks. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert, 37 of 55, 420 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He had a 93 QB rating. Leading rusher was also Justin Herbert, 6 carries, 31 yards, and a 5.2 average. Leading receivers for the Bolts include Oronde Gadsden, 7 catches, 164, and a touchdown on 9 targets. He averaged 23.4 per catch. Keenan Allen, 11 catches for 119 and a TD on 14 targets. He averaged 10.8 per catch. Ladd McConkey, 9 catches, 67 yards on 15 targets, and a 7.4 average. And Quentin Johnston, 2 catches, 30 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets. He averaged 15. Cameron Dicker, 1 for 1 on field goals, long of 43, 3 for 3 on extra points. J.K. Scott, 1 punt for 53 yards. That would result in a touchback. Okay, your leading tacklers for the Chargers include Derwin James with 7 tackles, Tony Jefferson with 6 tackles, R.J. Mickens with 5 tackles, Jamari Caldwell with 4 tackles, Cam Hart, 3 solo tackles and a pass defense, and Benjamin St-Juste, 3 tackles and 2 passes defense. Total yards, Chargers 445, Colts 401. Passing yards favored Los Angeles 391 to 281. Rush yards favored Indianapolis 120 to 54. 25 first downs for the Chargers, 24 for the Colts. Indy was 5 of 11 on 3rd down, 3 for 3 on 4th down. Chargers 8 of 16 on 3rd down, 3 for 4 on 4th down. 3 penalties, 42 yards for the Colts, 1 sack taken for 7 with no lost fumbles or interceptions thrown. 6 penalties, 35 yards for the Chargers, 3 sacks taken for 29 with no lost fumbles and 2 interceptions thrown. The Chargers nearly made it to ball hawk country. They held the ball for 34 minutes, 27 seconds versus 25 minutes, 33 seconds for the Colts. Closing line was LA minus 2.5. Get down there. Over-under was 49. I picked the Colts to win and cover as the road underdog. And I took the under at 48.5. They scored 62. Oh well, can't win them all, right? Straight up record goes to 8-1. Spread record is still unblemished at 9-0. Over-under totals is now 5-4 after taking the under in this game. Okay, next up we have the Green Bay Packers, who had a late rally to defeat the Arizona Cardinals 27-23. They moved their record to 4-1-1 on the season. Oh wait, we're not doing that game. Not yet. We gotta do that improbable comeback by the Denver Broncos. Trailing 19-0 starting the fourth quarter, they scored all of their points in the final 15 minutes as they stunned the New York Giants 33-32. The Broncos moved to 5-2, and they have sole possession of first place in the AFC West as a result, while the Giants dropped to 2-5 on the season. We'll begin with individual numbers first for the Broncos. Bo Nix was 27 of 50 for 279 with 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 83.7 QB rating. Leading rusher was J.K. Dobbins, 14 carries, 81 yards, and a 5.8 average. Bo Nix added 5 carries, 48 yards, and 2 touchdowns, plus a 9.6 average. On the receiving side, Courtland Sutton, 6 catches, 87 yards on 10 targets, averaging 14.5. Marvin Mims Jr., 6 catches, 85 yards on 7 targets, and an average of 14.2. Evan Ingram, 5 catches, 42 yards on 8 targets, he averaged 8.4. You had touchdown receptions by Troy Franklin and R.J. Harvey in this one. Will Lutz, 1 for 1 on field goals, log of 39, 2 for 2 on extra points. And Jeremy Crawshaw, 6 punts, averaging 50.5, long punt of 61, with 2 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for this Broncos defense include Alex Singleton with 8 tackles. You had 6 tackles from Brandon Jones plus a pass defense. Talanoa Hufanga, making his debut with the Broncos, had 5 tackles and 2 passes defense. Brandon Jones, 6 tackles and a pass defense. Jaquan McMillan with 4 tackles and a pass defense. Justin Sternad, he had 5 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Malcolm Roach, 5 tackles and half a sack. And Jonathan Cooper with 3 tackles and 1.5 sacks. For the Giants, who I still can't believe blew this game, Jackson Dart really wasn't that good throwing the ball. Just 15 of 33 for 283 yards. He did have 3 touchdowns and an interception and a 93.4 QB rating. Leading rusher was Cam Scatable, 16 carries, 60 yards, and a 3.8 average. Tyrone Tracy Jr., 9 carries, 46 yards, and a touchdown, and a 5.1 average. Jackson Dart added 5 carries, 11 yards, and a rushing score for the Giants. Leading receivers include Wan'Dale Robinson with 6 catches, 95 yards on 12 targets, 15.8 average. Daniel Bellinger, 3 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets, 29.3 average. Theo Johnson, 3 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets, average of 22. And Cam Scatable, 3 catches, 34 yards, and a receiving touchdown on 6 targets. He averaged 11.3 per reception. All right, this was the final game officially for Jude Nakatami. No field goals attempted. He was 2 for 4 on extra points, and he was cut by the Giants. So they'll be searching for a new kicker here in the not-too-distant future. Jamie Gillen, 6 punts, averaging 43.8, long punt of 57, 1 touchback, and 2 inside the 20-yard line. All right, on the Giants' defense, your leading tacklers were Dane Belton with 10 tackles. Drew Phillips with 9 tackles. Bobby Okereke with 6 tackles. And Darius Marsal with 6 tackles. Total yards for 407 for the Broncos, 387 for the Giants. Passing yards favored New York slightly, 268 to 265. Rush yards favored Denver, 142 to 119. 26 first downs for the Giants, 25 for the Broncos, and I'm willing back a bulk of those Bronco first downs came in the fourth quarter. New York was 6 of 15 on third down, 2 for 2 on fourth down. Denver 4 for 13 on third down and 1 for 2 on fourth down. 8 penalties, 36 yards for the Giants, 4 sacks taken for 15. No lost fumbles, 1 interception thrown. 12 penalties, 127 yards for the Broncos, 2 sacks taken for 14. No lost fumbles and no interceptions thrown. Time of possession was pretty even, 30 minutes, 11 seconds for the Giants, 29 minutes, 49 seconds for the Broncos. Closing line was Denver minus 8.5. Over-under was, Over-under was 41. Sorry. Alright, I took the Broncos to win and cover. So there lies my first spread loss of the week. So my straight up and spread records are both 9-1 after this game. And I picked the under in this game at under 40.5. I lost. So now my spread or my totals record is now 5-5. Okay, now we can talk about the Green Bay Packers, who rallied in the fourth quarter to beat the Arizona Cardinals 27-23. The Cardinals, or not the Cardinals, but rather the Packers moved their record to 4-1-1, while the Cardinals fall to 2-5. This is their 5th straight loss. We'll start with individual numbers. First for the Packers. Jordan Love was 19 of 29 for 179 yards with a touchdown and no interceptions and a 93.9 QB rating. Leading rusher was Josh Jacobs, 13 carries, 55 yards, and 2 scores, averaging 4.2 per game. 4.2 per rush, rather. On the receiving side, Romeo Doubs led the way with 6 catches, 72 yards, and 8 targets, averaging 12 per catch. Tucker Kraft, 5 for 58 and a touchdown on 10 targets and an 11.6 average. And rookie Matthew Golden, 4 catches, 37 yards on 4 targets, 9.3 average. Lucas Havrisket, 2 for 2 on field goals. Long was 61, very impressive. And 3 for 3 on extra points. Danny Whelan, 3 punts averaging 58, long punt of 63, with 1 touchback. Leading tacklers for the Packers include Quay Walker with 9 tackles and 1.5 sacks. How about Micah Parsons? He had 5 tackles and a career-high 3 sacks for this Packer D. You had 8 tackles apiece from Evan Williams and Javon Bullard. Isaiah McDuffie had 7 tackles, and then add 6 tackles each for Nate Hobbs and Colby Wooden. For the Cardinals, no Kyler Murray in this game for a second straight week, so Jacoby Brissett took the reins as the starter, went 25 of 36 for 279 with 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had a 110.8 QB rating. Leading rusher for the Cardinals was Bam Knight, 14 carries, 57 yards, and a 4.1 average. Brissett added 26 rushing yards on 6 attempts and a 4.3 average. Leading receivers for the Redbirds include Trey McBride, 10 for 74 and 2 touchdowns on 13 targets, 7.4 average. Zay Jones, 2 for 67 on 2 targets and a 33.5 average. He came into this game with a knee injury, but did play, obviously enough. Marvin Harrison Jr., 2 catches, 58 yards on 6 targets, averaging 29. Michael Wilson, 3 catches, 40 yards on 4 targets, 13.3 average. And Michael Carter, 2 catches, 25 yards on 2 targets, he averaged 12.5. Chad Ryland, 3 for 3 on field goals, long of 40, and 2 for 2 on extra points. Pat O'Donnell, 1 punt for 42 yards, which resulted in a touchback. Okay, leading tacklers for Arizona include Akeem Davis Gaither. He had 8 tackles, a forced fumble, and a pass defense. Buda Baker also had 8 tackles. Max Milton, 4 solo tackles. Jalen Thompson, 4 tackles, and a pass defense. Mac Wilson Sr. with 3 solo tackles. And Dadrin Taylor Demerson with 6 tackles. Sorry. And we can't forget about the ageless Calais Campbell with 4 tackles and a pass defense. Okay. Total yards, 330 for the Cardinals and 262 for the Packers. Passing yards favored Arizona, 236 to 168, each team with 94 rush yards. 23 first downs for the Cards, 19 for the Pack. Green Bay was 3 of 10 on 3rd down and 2 for 3 on 4th down. Arizona, 7 of 14 on 3rd down, 0 for 2 on 4th down. 10 penalties, 94 yards for the Packers, 1 sack taken for 11, no lost fumbles or interceptions thrown. 6 penalties, 55 yards for the Cardinals, 6 sacks taken for 43, and again 3 from Micah Parsons, 1 lost fumble, and no interceptions thrown. Cardinals had the ball for 34 minutes, 10 seconds, putting them just outside ball hawk territory. Packers had the ball for 25 minutes and 50 seconds. Closing line was Green Bay -7, over under was 44.5. I picked the Packers to win and to cover. So I got the straight up pick. My record is now 10-1. I lost the ATS record, dropping me to 9-2 against the spread. I projected the game would go over 44 points. The 2 teams scored 50. So now my totals record is 6-5. And then the last of the Sunday afternoon games saw the Dallas Cowboys and their explosive offense beat down the Washington Commanders 44-22 as they moved their record to 3-1. And Washington, an appearance in the NFC Championship game back in January, they are now 3-4 on the season. We'll start with individual numbers first for the Cowboys. Dak Prescott, another ho-hum game. 21 of 30, 264 yards, 3 more touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 130.4 QB rating. Leading rusher was Javonte Williams, 19 carries, 116 yards, and a touchdown. He averaged 6.1 per run. Leading receivers include CeeDee Lamb, 5 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown on 8 targets, 22 average. George Pickens, 4 catches, 82 yards on 6 targets, and a 20.5 average. And Jake Ferguson, 7 catches, 29 yards and 2 touchdowns on 7 targets, and a 4.1 average. Brandon Aubrey, 3 for 3 on field goals, long of 61, 5 for 5 on extra points. Brian Anger, 3 punts averaging 42.7, long punt of 49, 2 inside the 20-yard line. Oh, hate when that happens. Okay, leading tacklers for Dallas include Kenneth Murray Jr., 9 tackles and a sack. DaRon Bland had 7 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception return for a touchdown. Shamar James, 9 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. Marquise Bell, 6 tackles and a pass defense. And Donovan Ezaraku, 4 tackles and a sack. For the Commanders, Shaden Daniels was 12 of 22 for 156 yards with a touchdown and no interceptions. He had a 92.2 quarterback rating. He did leave this game, I think, with a knee injury. So Marcus Mariota would come in and go 4 for 10 for 63 with no touchdowns and 1 interception and a 22.1 QB rating. Jaden Daniels also led the team in rushing with 8 carries, 35 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 4.4 per run. Mariota added 2 carries, 34 yards, and a 17 average. Meanwhile, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt had 13 carries, 33 yards, averaging just 2.5 per run. Chris Rodriguez Jr. did have a rushing touchdown in this game. Leading receivers for the Commanders, and they were thin in this particular spot, include Jalen Lane, 3 catches, 60 yards, 6 targets, and a 20 average. Chris Moore with 2 catches, 59 yards on 5 targets, and a 29.5 average. Zach Ertz, 3 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets and a 12.3 average. Robbie Chosen, 4 catches, 36 yards on 4 targets and a 9 average. And Jeremy McNichols, 2 catches, 23 yards on 3 targets, 11.5 average. Matt Gay with no field goals attempted, 2 for 2 on extra points. Tress Way, 5 punts, averaging 57.2. Long punt of 60, 1 touchback, and 1 inside the 20. Leading tacklers for Washington include Bobby Wagner with 8 tackles. Quan Martin with 7 tackles. Frankie Louvu, 6 tackles. Let's go further down the list here. Mikey Sanderstil, 3 tackles and 2 passes defensed. And Daron Payne, 5 tackles and 3 passes defensed for the Washington Commanders. Total yards, Cowboys 409, Commanders 341. Passing yards favored Dallas 257 to 205. Rush yards also favored Dallas 152 to 136. 21 first downs for the Cowboys, 18 for the Commanders. Washington was 7 of 16 on 3rd down, 0 for 2 on 4th down. And Dallas was 6 of 12 on 3rd down with no 4th downs. 11 penalties, 118 yards for the Commanders. 4 sacks taken for 14. 1 lost fumble and 1 interception thrown. 10 penalties, 79 yards for the Cowboys. 1 sack taken for 7. No lost fumbles and no interceptions thrown. Time of possession, Dallas 31 minutes, 21 seconds. Washington 28 minutes and 39 seconds. Closing line was Dallas minus 1.5. Over under was 55.5. Although Washington were the early favorites in this game, but the line flipped in the Cowboys' favor. I picked Dallas to win and cover either way. So my straight up record goes to 11-1. ATS record for the week is 10-2. And I took the over in this game at 55 points. There were 66 scored. So that works for me. My over-under totals record is now 7-5. As we head to the remaining primetime games, starting off with Sunday Night Football, as the San Francisco 49ers doubled up the Atlanta Falcons 20-10. The Niners moved their record to 5-2, while the Falcons dropped to 3-3. We'll start with individual numbers first for the Niners. Mac Jones, 17-26 for 152 with no touchdowns and one interception and a 64.9 QB rating. Chad's in the house. What's good? Leading rusher, Christian McCaffrey, and he had one hell of a night. 24 carries for 129 yards and 2 touchdowns and a 5.4 average. He also led the team in receiving with 7 catches, 72 yards on 8 targets, and a 10.3 average. So that's 202 total yards on 31 total touches for CMC. Very impressive. Brian Robinson at 9 carries, 36 yards. As we look at the other San Francisco receivers, Jawan Jennings, 4 catches, 31 yards on 7 targets, 7.8 average. And Kendrick Bourne, 2 catches, 14 yards on 2 targets, and a 7 average. Eddie Pinheiro, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 55, and 2 for 2 on extra points. Thomas Morstead, 3 punts, averaging 47.7, long punt of 53, with 1 touchback and 1 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers on the Niner defense include Tatum Bethune with 10 tackles. Malik Mustafa, 6 tackles. You had 5 solo tackles from Jair Brown, 5 total tackles for Darrell Luter Jr., and then Bryce Huff with 5 tackles, a sack, and a 4th fumble. On the Falcons side, Michael Penix Jr., 21 of 38, 241 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 83.3 QB rating. Bijan Robinson was pretty much held in check in this game, 14 carries, 40 yards, and only a 2.9 average. But he was involved in the receiving game. He had 6 catches, 52 yards, and a receiving touchdown on 8 targets and an 8.7 average. Other receivers for Atlanta include Darnell Mooney, 3 catches, 68 yards on 5 targets, and a 22.7 average. Kyle Pitts Sr., 7 catches, 62 yards on 10 targets, and an 8.9 average. And Drake London, 4 catches, 42 yards on 10 targets, and a 10.5 average. Parker Romo, 1 for 1 on field goals, long of 38, and 1 for 1 on extra points. So not exactly a busy night for him. Bradley Pinion, 3 punts, 50.7 average, long punt of 61, 1 touchback, and 2 inside the 20-yard line. So really not a busy night in terms of the Falcons' special teams. Leading tacklers for the Falcons include Jesse Bates III and J.D. Bertrand, each with 10 tackles. Caden Ellis had 9 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Xavier Watts finished the day with 9 tackles. And Mike Hughes finished with 5 tackles and a pass defense. Total yards, San Francisco 324, Atlanta 292. Passing yards favored the Falcons 230 to 150. Rush yards favored the Niners 174 to 62. San Francisco had 23 first downs, Atlanta had 19. The Falcons finished 5 of 11 on third down, 0 for 2 on fourth down. And the 49ers, 9 of 15 on third down, no fourth downs. 6 penalties, 43 yards for the Falcons, 2 sacks taken for 11, 1 lost fumble, and no interceptions thrown. 3 penalties, 25 yards for the Bang Bang Niner gang. 1 sack taken for 2 yards, no lost fumbles, and 1 interception thrown. Time of possession, 49ers 32 minutes, 10 seconds. Falcons 27 minutes and 50 seconds. Closing line was Atlanta -1. Over-under was 47. I took the Niners to win and cover. It was the closing line. I go by the opening lines here. So I go 12-1 straight up and 11-2 ATS after this one. And I picked the under 47.5 in this game. The two teams only scored 30. So that's a win in my over-under totals record. Now 8-5. All right, let's wrap this up with the Monday Night Football doubleheader. Starting off with Game 1. The Detroit Lions over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 24-9. Both teams are now 5-2 on the season. We'll start with individual numbers first for the Lions. Jared Goff was 20 of 29 for 241 with a touchdown and an interception and a 91.3 QB rating. Leading rusher was Jahmyr Gibbs, 17 carries, 136, and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 8 per pop. But his counterpart, David Montgomery, was held in check. Just 13 carries, 21 yards, and a 1.6 average. Leading receivers for Detroit include Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown on 10 targets, 14.3 average. Jahmyr Gibbs, 3 catches, 82 yards on 3 targets, averaging 27.3. So that's 218 yards and 20 total touches for Sonic. Brock Wright had 3 catches, 23 yards on 3 targets, and a 7.7 average. David Montgomery, 2 catches, 18 yards on 3 targets, and a 9 average. Khalif Raymond, 3 for 17 on 3 targets, 5.7 average. And Sam Laporta, 3 for 15 on 3 targets. He averaged 5 per catch. Jake Bates, 1 for 2 on field goals, long of 58, 3 for 3 on extra points. Jack Fox, 5 punts, averaging 51.2, long punt of 66, 1 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Lions include Eric Hallett with 8 tackles. Jack Campbell also had 8 tackles, plus a sack and a pass defense. Arthur Mollett, 5 solo tackles, a pass defense, and an INT. Alex Anzalone, 4 tackles. Amik Robertson, 3 solo tackles, a forced fumble, and a pass defense. Derek Barnes with 5 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. And Rock Ya-Sin, 4 tackles and 2 passes defense. Further down the list, you got Tyrus Wheat, third-year player out of Mississippi State. 3 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and a forced fumble. For the Bucs, Baker Mayfield, probably his worst game of the season. 28 of 50 for 228, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 66.1 QB rating. Leading rusher was Rachaad White, 10 carries, 38 yards, 3.8 average. On the receiving side of things for Tampa, Cade Otton led the way with 7 catches, 65 yards on 9 targets and a 9.3 average. Emeka Egbuka and Tez Johnson, each with 4 catches, 58 yards, and both averaged 14.5 per catch. Johnson added a touchdown. He had 9 targets, while Egbuka had 12. And Sterling Shepard, 7 catches, 25 yards on 7 targets, and a 3.6 average. Chase McLaughlin, 1 for 1 on field goals, long of 53 with no extra points. Riley Dixon, 6 punts averaging 43.8, long punt of 52, and how about 4 punts inside the 20. All right, top tacklers for the Bucs include Tyke Smith with 13 tackles and a sack. Savaka Dennis, 12 tackles and a sack. Antoine Winfield Jr., 8 tackles. Anthony Nelson, 5 tackles and a sack. Yaya Diaby, 5 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. And Levante David with 7 tackles. Total yards, Lions 379, Bucs 251. Passing yards favored Detroit 215 to 210. Rush yards also favored Detroit 164 to 41. 17 first downs for the Lions, 15 for the Buccaneers. Tampa was 4 of 16 on third down, 2 of 5 on fourth down. Detroit 3 for 13 on third down, 1 for 2 on fourth down. 6 penalties, 35 yards for the Buccaneers, 4 sacks taken for 18. 6 penalties, 50 yards for the Lions, 4 sacks taken for 26. Each team lost a fumble, and each team threw an interception. Time of possession, Lions 31 minutes, 39 seconds. Bucs 28 minutes and 21 seconds. Closing line was Detroit -6. Over-under was 54. I picked Tampa to win and to cover. Unfortunately, losing both picks, so my straight-up record drops to 12-2. ATS record is 11-3, but I did get the over-under correct. I picked under 52.5. The two teams scored 33. So my totals record is now 9-5. As we come to the last game of the week, the Seattle Seahawks defeating the Houston Texans 27-19. As Seattle moves to 5-2, Houston drops to 2-4. We'll start with individual numbers. First up for the Seahawks, Sam Darnold, 17 of 31 for 213 yards with 1 touchdown and an interception and a 73.7 QB rating. And then Cooper Kupp threw a pass that went for an interception. He had no QB rating. Leading rushers for the Hawks include Kenneth Walker III, 17 carries, 66 yards, 3.9 average, and Zach Charbonnet, 12 carries, 49 yards, and 2 touchdowns, averaging 4.1. Leading receivers for the Seahawks include Jackson Smith and Jigba. The Texans secondary had no answers for him whatsoever. 8 catches, 123, and a touchdown on 14 targets and a 15.4 average. And Elijah Arroyo, 4 catches, 42 yards on 5 targets and a 10.5 average. Jason Myers, 2 for 3 on field goals, long of 47, 3 for 3 on extra points. Michael Dixon, 4 punts, averaging 51.3, long punt of 58 with 1 inside the 20-yard line. Okay, leading tacklers for Seattle include Ernest Jones IV with 11 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Ty Okada, 9 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. Kobe Bryant, 5 solo tackles. Drake Thomas also with 5 solo tackles plus 3 passes defense. Josh Jobe with 5 tackles, 2 passes defense. And Byron Murphy II with 6 tackles. For the Texans, C.J. Stroud, 23 of 49, 229 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a lowly 59 QB rating. He did lead the team in rushing, 2 carries for 25 yards. That's a 12.5 average. Nick Chubb, 5 for 16 and a 3.2 average. And Woody Marks, rookie from USC, 10 carries, 15 yards, only 1.5 per run. Leading receivers for Houston include Dalton Schultz, 9 catches, 98 yards on 10 targets, 10.9 average. Jalen Noel, 4 catches, 77 yards on 7 targets, and a 19.3 average. Nico Collins, 4 catches, 27 yards on 10 targets, and a 6.8 average. He would be diagnosed with a concussion following the game, so that's bad news for the Texans. And Woody Marks added 3 catches, 20 yards, and a receiving touchdown on 5 targets, and a 6.7 average. Kaimi Fairbairn, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 46, 1 for 1 on extra points. Tommy Townsend, 7 punts, averaging 49.1, long punt of 57, with a touchback and a punt inside the 20. Okay, leading tacklers for the Texans include Kamari Lassiter with 10 tackles and a pass defense. Sorry. We're almost done, though. Jalen Petrie, 9 tackles. EJ Speed, 6 tackles. Azeez Al-Shaair, 6 tackles and a pass defense. Will Anderson Jr., 5 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. Kalen Bullock, 4 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. And Tommy Tagiel, something. I don't know how you pronounce his last name. He had 3 solo tackles and a pass defense. Total yards, 316 for the Seahawks, 254 for the Texans. Both teams finished with 198 passing yards. Rush yards favored Seattle, 118 to 56. 19 first downs for the Seahawks, 18 for the Texans. Late downs were bad for both teams. 2 of 15 third downs for Houston, 1 of 4 on fourth down. And 2 of 14 third downs for Seattle, 2 for 2 on fourth down. And the laundry flew in this game. 10 penalties, 105 yards for the Texans. 3 sacks taken for 31. No lost fumbles and 1 interception thrown. 12 penalties, 93 yards for the Seahawks. 2 sacks taken for 15. 2 lost fumbles and 2 interceptions thrown. So give credit to the Texans defense. They played feisty in this one, forcing all those turnovers. Time of possession, 32 minutes, 17 seconds for the Seahawks. 27 minutes, 43 seconds for the Texans. Closing line was Seattle -3. Over-under is 41.5. I picked Seattle to win and to cover. And I took this game at over 41. So the two teams ended up with 46 points. So, my final record for week 7, I went 13-2 straight up for an 867 win percentage. 12-3 against the spread, 800 win percentage. And over-under totals were 10-5 for the week, 667 win percentage. For the season, I am now 68-39-1 straight up, which is a 634 win percentage. ATS record is 49-57-2 at 463, so still plenty of work to do there. Over under totals for the season, 57-48-3. That's a 542 win percentage. All right, 1 o'clock games I went 6-0, and for the season I'm 39-13. 4 p.m. games I went 4-0, and for the season 15-11. All right, I won Sunday Night Football this week, so my Sunday night record is 3-4-1. Monday night games, including international games, I split the two for week 7, so my Monday night record is 5-6. On Thursday nights, and this doesn't include the kickoff game, that goes to the Sunday night record. I lost the Thursday night game between the Steelers and Bengals. So my season record on Thursday night is 3-3. Again, not counting the kickoff game. Alright, 11 games on Sunday afternoons, and this also includes the Rams-Jags game from London. I went 11-0 in week 7. My season record is now 57-25 on Sunday afternoon, including international games. Primetime games, I went 2-2. So for the season, my record is 11-14-1. Alright, you had 5 games on both CBS and Fox. I went 5-0 on both networks. My record for CBS is 26-14, and for Fox is 28-10. Games on NBC, and that includes the kickoff game, I won this week. My record on the season is 3-4-1. And then games played on ESPN and ABC, I split the 2 games from Monday. And for the season on Monday nights, I am 5-6. As for Amazon Prime Video, I did lose again. So after a 3-0 start on Prime, I've dropped 3 in a row. So that's 3-3 on Amazon, 0-1 on YouTube with the Chiefs-Chargers game in week 1. And with the international series on NFL Network, I did win with the Rams. And so my NFL Network record is 3-1. And in international games all told, I am 3-2. So that's the recap. Now let's dive into my week 8 power rankings. Starting at the bottom as always and working our way up. Alright, the New York Jets stay at number 32 at 0-7. They will visit the Bengals. At number 31 are the 1-6 Tennessee Titans. They visit the Indianapolis Colts. Down to number 30 are the Las Vegas Raiders at 2-5. They are one of 6 teams off this week. At number 29, and moving up because the Raiders moved down, are the New Orleans Saints at 1-6. They will host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Also moving up to number 28 with a 1-6 record is the Miami Dolphins. They visit Atlanta. No change for the New York Giants as they stay at 27. They have a 2-5 record, and they're looking to sweep the Eagles as they visit Philly on Sunday. Up to number 26, the Baltimore Ravens at 1-5. They will host the Chicago Bears in their first game back from the bye week. And speaking of which, the Arizona Cardinals are down to number 25. They have a 2-5 record, and they are off this week. Up to number 24 are the Cincinnati Bengals at 3-4. They host the New York Jets. Number 23 also moving up are the Cleveland Browns at 2-5. They visit Foxborough to play the New England Patriots. Down to 22 are the Minnesota Vikings at 3-3. They play the Chargers in LA Thursday night. Number 21 and moving down are the Jacksonville Jaguars at 4-3. They're off this week. Down to number 20 are the Houston Texans at 2-4. They host the 49ers on Sunday. Number 19 moving up are the Carolina Panthers at 4-3. They host Josh Allen and the Bills. Down to number 18 are the Washington Commanders at 3-4. They visit Arrowhead to face Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs on Monday night. Moving up to number 17 are the Chicago Bears at 4-2. They visit Baltimore. Steady at number 16 are the Atlanta Falcons at 3-3. They'll host Miami. Slipping to number 15 are the Pittsburgh Steelers at 4-2. They host the Green Bay Packers on Sunday night. Jumping up to number 14 are the Dallas Cowboys at 3-1. This week they are in Denver taking on the Broncos. Up to number 13, the Kansas City Chiefs at 4-3. They host the Washington Commanders on Monday night. Number 12 are the Los Angeles Rams with a 5-2 record. They are off this week. At number 11, down from last week, are the Los Angeles Chargers at 4-3. They host the Vikings on Thursday night. Moving up to number 10 are the Philadelphia Eagles at 5-2. They'll host the New York Giants with revenge on their minds on Sunday. Moving up to number 9 are the Seattle Seahawks at 5-2. They are off this week. Moving up to number 8, the Denver Broncos at 5-2. They host the Dallas Cowboys. Also moving up to number 7 are the New England Patriots at 5-2. They'll host the Cleveland Browns. Steady at number 6, the San Francisco 49ers at 5-2. They visit Houston. Dropping to number 5 are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 5-2. They visit the Saints at the Superdome. Steady at number 4, the Buffalo Bills at 4-2. They're back from the bye week. They'll visit Charlotte to play the Panthers. Moving up to number 3 are the Indianapolis Colts with the best record in the NFL at 6-1. They'll host the Tennessee Titans. At number 2 are the Detroit Lions at 5-2. They are off this week. And the Green Bay Packers, if you didn't hear me spoil it earlier, they regained the number 1 spot with a 4-1-1 record. They're in Pittsburgh on Sunday nights. And there it is, the Week 7 edition of the week that was, as we looked at the team and player statistical numbers from every game this past week in the National Football League, that being Week 7. And you just heard my Week 8 power rankings fresh off the presses. Okay. I'm going to call it a night because it is after 10 o'clock here in Phoenix. So I'll be back tomorrow with a look at the college football rankings and the Week 9 college football TV schedule. Those videos will drop tomorrow. I want to see if I can get them out early. So make sure you join me for those. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. Good night and peace out.